Today is the 7th day of June. The time is 1:30. The Board of Commissioners is in session. All three commissioners are present. The purpose of the meeting, of this hearing, is for our budget discussion, and we'll be doing that. Are there any changes to the agenda, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Okay, I want to start off by suggesting that this is a very meaningful process, and we appreciate everyone's attention to the detail, because I know you've been working on this for a couple of months. Appreciate the clerk's staff and your staff putting this all together. And we're going to be making some difficult decisions in the next few days. And I just wanted to make everyone know that, let you know that we make these decisions very conscientiously, and knowing how much you've put into the hard work, and understanding that we have about 2,000 constituents right here in the county, a little over 2,000, that pays attention to this. And then we have 575,000 roughly outside of this building that pays real close attention to it. And then we have 105 people just a little ways north of here. They pay real close attention to this process as well. And so I hope that the decisions that we make here, I hope no one takes anything personal, because it's not meant to be personal. We just are wanting to do this for the best interest of the county. And I think that's what we'll end up with. Any other comments you want to make? Go ahead.
Just to amplify what the chairman's just said, kind of what I talked with several of you about when you're giving your presentations. If we ask questions, which I hope do, I will. It's not a questioning of the value of why you're advocating for what you're advocating for. It's questioning in terms of, just like you had to do it at your department and elected official level, you had to make those decisions and bring them forward, and we have to do the same thing in terms of making some decisions for the entire county. So to amplify what the chairman said, we look forward to working with you to make it work for all of us. You're all taxpayers, like I said before, and we're all taxpayers. We have that hat that we wear as well. So we appreciate what you help us do to protect our taxes as well. So thank you.
Okay. Well, I'd say, Mr. Clerk, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. On a personal note, I have a unique privilege of working closely with every department head and elected official during this tough budget process. It is a great blessing to me. I can see they all love this community. They love their employees and are trying to do the best to provide essential services to the citizens of Ada County. It constantly restores my faith in local government. Regardless of what is happening on the national and world stage, these actors on Ada County's stage are kind, committed, understanding, and bought into keeping our community a place where people want to live, raise families, and recreate. I am super grateful for a room full of really smart people behind me, because I'm sure I will not be able to answer most of the questions that you have, although I encourage you to ask them. My statutory obligation is to present the proposed budget with historical data for the board to consider. There is no rush in this, so please ask questions and address concerns as we go along. Intent is to provide this board an opportunity to discuss and deliberate and eventually decide on a tentative budget. We have milestones and still a lot of work to get to a public, transparent presentation schedule for July 22nd with our budget tool. We then can post legal publications before adoption of a tentative budget and final budgets by the deadline, which is early September. Then L2s and staffing, setting levies come next. It's a very challenging process that takes some time. Then we can focus on fiscal year closeout. Before I start into the individual briefs here for the statutory requirements, I'd like to show people the budget tool as it sits right now. This is with a 2.9% increase in taxes, full NCR, and a combined 4%. Right now it's split in 2.5, 1.5. for COLA merit, and we are still $700,000 short on ongoing revenue. This is assuming no unfunded positions are approved, as well as no unfunded supplementals. So as you can see, we have our work cut out for us for the next few days. With that, I have a hard hat up here. It's a stress ball. Anybody needs it when they come up to ask questions, feel free to use it. And I've got a cup full of lifesavers too. First off, I'd like to delve into the treasurer's budget. I have met few people that are more dedicated to her craft than Beth Mon. Her budget this year came in flat year over year. She has no supplementals above her allocation. She is slightly down in her personnel budget and up in her operating budget for FY26. As you can see, the flat budget from last year to this year, she has had one mid-year request for personnel changes, which was reviewed by HR and approved by this board. You can see here, it was for the chief deputy, an adjustment to additional duties that were taken on by him. And again, that was already approved by the board. But per the request of the board, that's a historical look at mid-year adjustments within the treasurer's office. Are there any questions on that?
Any questions? Nope, go ahead.
All right. Hers is fairly easy to flow through. There are 0 personnel requests that are supplemental or even within budget. And she has 0 operating supplemental requests. Her one CIP is for the treasurer's area remodel in conjunction with the clerk's area remodel. And that funding is $519,729. That will require general funding for one time on that. Are there any questions or additional information that you would like on that remodel? I'm sure Beth would love to come up and answer any of them.
Any questions? Go ahead.
No, this is for both of you since you're working together. You are working with her, that's my understanding, just for clarification.
That is,
You two are working together so that you're meeting the needs of both of you as you do this, correct?
that is correct. It's a money saver as well because we save money through combined efforts with the construction process and everything else. So yes. Any other additional questions?
Is that money coming from fund balance?
It is. This particular money, it would be coming from one-time supplemental, which obviously general fund balance.
Yeah.
My portion of it would be coming from the court's fund balance, which is not the same fund balance.
It's all money, though.
It's all money.
Right. Okay, any other questions? All right.
I do have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Now, the vehicle thing will be addressed in the vehicle report, correct?
The vehicle CIP will be addressed in procurement.
Thank you.
Yep. Her revenue is flat year over year. That is it for the treasurer's office, unless you have any other general questions for Beth before we move on.
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to the coroner's office. Should have brought my glasses today.
You borrow mine?
Yeah, I may need to. Rich is dedicated to his folks and the families who have to interact with his office, and I sure do appreciate him. That is not a fun job to have to deal with in those tragedies that he's often involved with. For his budget, his overall submission, $5,532,681. His request came in $202,000 over. That was primarily due to one unfunded position and a few supplementals, capital operating supplementals, which we'll cover here in a second. Overall, year over year, he has had an increase from last year to this year based off those supplementals. His personnel is up 9% and his operating is up 30%. For his mid-year PAs for this fiscal year that have already been approved and again reviewed by HR, there were 2. Special salary, there was a receptionist and an office records manager, which again, HR reviewed and this board approved mid-year. They were within budget, Any questions on those?
No, I don't have any questions. Go ahead.
And this relates to all of them. When you say within budget, what does that mean?
They were budget neutral, meaning they while the PCN level budget moved, they had to find budget authority somewhere else within their budget to match it. So you can see in these descriptions, those are base pay adjustments, and they were moved from one PCN to another.
Where they moved from a PCN that just wasn't filled?
This one says an auditor budget override, PCN 43 increase to make the new budget. Budget authority for increase was received from a PA to reduce the budget in 30. I don't have any more fidelity than that on that one, but I'm sure.
Well, if you can, as you're going through there, I'd like to know that information.
Sure. I know the PCN numbers. That's what's in most of these descriptions. I don't know necessarily what the duty title or if the position was even filled. Sometimes it's a vacant position. Sometimes it's just an underfilled position where someone is making less than what was funded in the whole budget.
Sure.
In addition to that, his personnel needs, if all 5 positions he is requesting, 4 of which are funded within his budget currently and 1 is unfunded, if all 5 were approved, his position would move from 33 to 38 this coming year. Go ahead.
What do you mean by funded and unfunded?
Funded meaning he placed them within his budget allocation, so he's not asking for any more additional funding to cover those. He found savings or additional revenue within his budget to cover that position. If it's an unfunded supplemental, he doesn't have the money for it, but he's asking for it from the board.
Okay, so his allocation that's what you provided at the beginning?
Yes.
And you decided that based on his current budget?
His previous year's budget minus one-time supplementals that he received last year was what everyone received.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
You go ahead.
To amplify on what the chairman said. So since these are new positions and he found current year, next year, his baseline will include them?
They will. Now, either he found existing funds or he found increased revenue. And in this case, he found increased revenue mostly for that. So the out-of-county contracts that he's doing for autopsies, there was an increase in revenue by about $200,000. And then if the board approves the cremation fees, there's another $180,000 of increased revenue that he'll take on. So that becomes his new base budget because he's got revenue to match it.
So the cremation fees are included in what you're calculating?
Right now they are, but it's a decision point the board will have to make at some point to say, yes, we're going to do that, or no. If you say no, then some of those positions he's asking for become unfunded.
Go ahead.
No, and the out-of-county autopsy fees, that's included in here, because that's going up this year as well, correct?
That is correct. That's already been approved by the board.
Right,
That's
right.
in place. So that additional revenue is there.
And that's counted as the additional revenue
Yes.
in next year's budget?
Yes.
Now, we talked about it when he was up here in terms of reanalyzing that in terms of some other nuances. If that were to happen and we were to change that, how would that fold into what we're talking about right now? Because that would come later. It would.
Yeah, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. If it came mid-year, that would be unscheduled revenue that we would bring on. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
That is not correct. Okay, so Tim corrects me then here.
No, so if there's any type of increase to the out-of-county autopsies that we charge, if we know before you adopt the final budget, we can increase the revenue. If not, then it would become new revenue for FY27. Because you can only bring on unanticipated revenue, which mainly means an unanticipated revenue source or grant, just because you missed the mark on what you think you're going to get for a current revenue stream isn't justification in the state's eyes to bring it on by resolution.
Go ahead.
So because we're estimating the out-of-county, even at the 2350 that's been approved, correct? So if that changes, how does that fold in as we're moving through the year?
Once the budget's-
Back to what you were saying.
Once the budget's set, if revenue comes in higher, that just becomes fund balance for the following year.
But if it goes under,
Goes under, then we have to cover it with some other expense or other revenue source.
and that would be like we're just talking about?
We have unexpected revenue shortfall funds to cover those.
So if we were to change that, if they went under the 2350, and in terms of the estimate numbers that we get from out of county, and we didn't get the revenue we're expecting, and then we increased the rates after an analysis, would that fold back into what we're talking about here in the process you just described?
So once the budget's set with expected revenue, so we're
Right.
guessing on this revenue and the expected expenses associated with them, then we run with that in the next fiscal year. If the revenue falls short, then we have to cover it with something else. Often it can be covered with unspent funds already within the budget. If we get to the very end of the year and all of our shortfalls on expected revenue are more than we have money allocated in the budget, budget stabilization, which is the unexpected revenue shortfalls, will help us out.
And that happens at the end of
The very end of the year. Okay. For his 5 new positions, he is looking at, again, 4 are within his budget, Mr. Chair. I call those funded, but they're within his budget. 1 is unfunded. He has 2 MDIs, 1 training and exercise coordinator, and 1 receptionist to handle the cremations. Those are the in-budget or funded positions. The unfunded position he has, as we scroll through here, you can look at these, is the forensic autopsy technician. That is the one that he's looking for supplemental funds to be able to cover. And again, all of these, they have the justifications within them. They have been reviewed, and there's not a percentage increase on any of these because they're new positions. So, any questions on any of those new positions being proposed?
Yeah, I have a question. Would the new positions, has the salaries been through our HR to determine if that's an adequate salary?
Everything has gone through HR.
Yes.
Okay, because that's important. We need to make sure. All right, go ahead.
Mr.
Go
Chairman.
ahead.
So you're saying that 1 would be new that we'd be appropriating new money for? One of the, you said 5 total?
There's 5 proposed new positions. 4 have been loaded within his budget. 1 is unfunded supplemental. So he's asking for additional funds from the general fund to be able to cover that. And that would be an ongoing expense, obviously.
So we could remove one of the 4 and make it 4 and fund the one with the one we removed for the,
If the numbers match, yes, you could do that.
I'm just looking,
Yeah,
options.
The board has obviously full discretion over the whole budget. So if you wanted to not approve one of the positions that is funded, that is an option for you.
And then say if you want the new one, you can,
They could use the money for something else within their budget.
thanks.
Okay.
All right, in addition to those 5 positions, he has 9 special salary adjustments totaling $36,377. 8 of those are MDIs, specialists, holdback for a pathologist. It's a 2% increase after 6 months that they're paying the pathologist, and some other adjustments in here you can see as we go through. This first one is a reduction, a 3% reduction, moving budget authority probably to cover some other things, but here is the forensic administration and transcription specialist, 6.7% increase. MDI investigator, 6.4% increase. There's another MDI for a 6.9% increase. All these are within the budget tool that you have, and they're on a sheet in front of you as well that show this, but these are all the justifications. Most of these are anticipated promotions from 1 to 2 or steps in responsibilities. So those are the special salary adjustments. Any questions on any of those?
Go ahead.
Not on, how does, because if you go back to the other sheet, the big sheet, yeah. So where did, we just, this morning, because the forensic pathologist, and that's a moving, that was a moving target.
Yeah.
And so where does that come into all of this in terms of the personnel?
I'm unaware of the conversation this morning, or should I? Are you aware of the conversation?
The conversation this morning was for the temporary hires that we bring in through forensic pathologist services. The new pathologist is hired.
Come on up to the mic.
Jeez, I gotta do this again. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for that question, Commissioner Daly. What we talked about this morning was for the locum tenens, which are the temp hire forensic pathologists. In the budget, we have the third pathologist, which will be starting effectively August 1st. And so that was not, that's not additional funds here. It's already funded. I'm just filling the position that's been vacant.
And this, what we, go ahead, finish.
I'm sorry?
Did you have something else before I ask my next question?
I'm done.
So what we did is the temporary, then that's what we did.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
So that what we, and this other one will be the permanent.
Correct.
That's it, that's in your budget
Right.
as it's been presented.
Right.
Thank
We
you.
had to do the temporary thing, for those that don't know. Temporary thing has to be paid out of the operation budget, not the personnel budget. If I were able to do that, I would not have been before you this morning, because the money's already there. So that's what we did this morning, was take it out of the supplement the B budget, the operation budget. But the filled position should not have effect on the budget that we present today, because it's already there.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Gentlemen, appreciate it.
That's all for the personnel. So their personnel supplemental requests right now, you don't see one in, well, is that not showing up, Anthony, or am I not? There it is. You can see the personnel supplemental as it, red striped, is unfunded currently. That's again, the one position that he's asking for. For his supplemental request for capital operating, the bottom three, the morgue supplies, bone saws, forensic and investigation cameras, those are all one time. The top two are ongoing supplementals for the maintenance of the LODOX service, as well as the routine maintenance of the CT scanner. Any additional questions or additional discussion that you would like to have on any of those requests?
Go ahead.
This is really to him now, but for everybody else in the county as well. So when we have these kinds of things like bone saw, routine things that are part of the operation of the, do we do that? Is this way we normally do it? Just one time when we want to do it? How do we plan for those kinds of things? I guess or is there a way we plan?
My experience looking on the outside, and I'm not an expert in every elected office and department, some have projected costs where they have routine resupply of certain equipment that fails on a periodic basis. A great example is the sheriff's office vehicles. They have, every year they schedule replacement of vehicles, and that's within their budget. Sometimes there's pieces of equipment that just catch people by surprise and they don't have a budget for it. This is probably one of those where they're requesting for a supplemental. I'm sure they have funds that I shouldn't speak for Rich, but I'm sure most departments have funds for things that are required on an ongoing basis.
Thank you.
Any other questions on any of those supplementals? Okay, there are no EOEs or CAPs from the coroner's office. As you can see, his revenue increased significantly this year, and again, that's due to what we've already talked about, the $200,000 in additional revenue from the out-of-county autopsies that we are projecting with his. We'll move on to IT. His allocation. That is due primarily to multiple ongoing supplementals that we'll cover here in a second. He is down in his personnel. His FY25 mid-years, software engineer, a security engineer, and an administrator. Per your request there was a PCN numbers, Mr. Chair, that they were taken from in order to fund those, and to the tune of $4,400, $4,700, and $7,800 from those PCNs, and they looked like they all came from, 2 of them came from the same PCN and 1 came from a different PCN. Any questions on those? Okay. For the rest of his personnel requests for the year, he had 1 special salary adjustment, and 4 promotions and 1 base budget. Let's look at his promotions. There's 4 there for $37,000. These are again within budget. They include 2 systems engineers, an IT business analyst, and a project manager. Anywhere from 10%, 7%, 10%, and 9% increases on these for these promotions. Generally looking like the justifications are very well done on any of these, and again, they've been through HR approved and are before the board and all within budget. Any questions on any of those?
I don't know. Any questions? All right, go ahead.
Okay. For the special salary adjustment, it is for a developer, 5% raise here due to unforeseen reasons within that team. Had to do some additional research and come up without direct supervision. So that is the special salary adjustment for this one position for the developer.
Could I ask a question about that one?
Go ahead.
If it's for sort of a one-time project he did, would that be better as, like, why is that not like a one-time bonus as opposed to a salary adjustment?
I would defer to Steve O'Meara for that, if he's in the audience.
Sharon? Sir? I didn't hear the entire question. I apologize. If you wouldn't mind
It
repeating.
was regarding that position, the 5% salary increase. The justification was he spent some additional time on his own without being paid to come up to speed on a project. So the question is, why isn't that not considered as like a one-time bonus as opposed to a full-time salary change?
This is someone who has gone above while we deal with another employee with a health issue, which is unlikely to correct itself. And so this person has gone above and beyond, and without having to have a lot of hand-holding, and we expect that to continue into the future.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
The 1 base pay adjustment is for a field tech, support technician. And again, it's an introductory 4% after 6 months. Again, within budget. All right, any questions on supplementals overall? All of those that I just described, again, are all within his budget. He included those in his, and he's flat overall year over year with number of employees, 77 last year and 77 this year, so no new positions. For the supplemental requests from the capital operating side, there are several as briefed, totaling $751,250. I can go through these one by one unless there's any particular ones that you would like to address.
Any issues on some of them? Was this Microsoft software subscription, is that an increased price, or is that a new, is that a software?
I believe most of these are due to increases in the subscription, the number of subscriptions, or a new contract that increased the cost of the subscription. Unless I'm wrong, Steve. This one was an increase.
Okay. Go ahead.
And just to clarify, I think I remember from the presentation, the data center maintenance was the cloud versus the in-house, correct? Is that the line item, the data center maintenance?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Daly, that particular one is it wasn't so much one versus the other. That's maintenance for equipment that is actually within our data center.
Already.
We had some stuff, some of these had to do with services we have in the cloud, and this one is one of the ones that's on site.
Thank you.
Any other questions on those supplementals?
I don't have any questions. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Okay, for extraordinary operating expenses, IT storage system upgrade for $440,000. Is that the one that you might have been referring to?
I think that's
Okay. That is on the CIP EOE list, and it's been ranked, so that will be within the budget as we look at it to consider. For his revenue, flat year over year, most of his revenue comes from public interest and salary expense reimbursement. Any questions overall for IT?
Any other questions?
This is a general that'll apply to everybody as we go through in terms of on the personnel side when we look at those and so they're excuse me, they're in year, then we have to decide as well the cost of living and merit at the end. That goes on top of what they would be getting here, correct? If they got a 5%, then they would be getting 9%, as it were.
I defer to HR, but I don't believe I saw any requests for supplementals, market analysis that did not, or that it purposely excluded the merit COLA. So I think the assumption is that all of these would additionally qualify for the merit COLA.
And that is part of, I guess that's a better question, that's part of HR's analysis, correct? When they go through the analysis.
Here comes the answer.
Here comes the answer.
Chairman, Commissioners, excellent question. This is something that we do look at every single year. So at the time that those requests come in the case of market adjustments, the time and slot that they're using the market data may or may not change by the time our budget is live. So if you approve a pool and the and the special requests that come in as part of the budget process, we look at those to verify there aren't any leapfrog issues, internal equity issues, or any other reasons that those additional funding dollars would cause any problems from a compliance standpoint and internal equity within the county. Those are discussions separately each year for all of, EMS, Sheriff's Office on the pay plan, and we collaborate on that to discuss how to handle those for those positions. In general, the answer is yes, it is applied. However, we go through PCN by PCN to verify that there may potentially be an internal, like let's say somebody with less experience could potentially leapfrog. So we monitor for all of that to ensure that we don't have any complications there based on the data at that time.
Go ahead.
That was one of the reasons I was asking the question in terms of the equity question that
Sure.
would be
Yeah,
impacted. But if you review it, that was my real question.
sure.
Do you locate leapfrogs very often?
We've had maybe, honestly, within the last couple of years, maybe 3 times of where we worked with a department and office looking at a potential issue like that. But we've worked with them to make corrections and that type of thing. It's not very frequent that that happens.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead. Thank you.
All right, any other general questions for IT? All All right, let's move on to juvenile. Cody, I like Cody. No nonsense and a big heart. No one better to lead juvie in my mind. He has had a $12,722,495 budget submission this year, which is $107,000 over. That is primarily due to some supplementals for ongoing that he has requested. He is flat year over year. I know it may not look like that on the graph, but that little chart here is grants that we generally bring on after the budget is submitted. So his base budget year to year is flat. He's gone up slightly in his operating and down some in his personnel budget. He's had no mid-years, but he does have some personnel adjustments that he is requesting as part of this budget cycle. They are all within budget. None of them are supplementals. He has one new position that is an administrative office coordinator. And you can see here the justification for it. Coming in at fully loaded $80,231 cost to the county. He also has one position that was removed, an administrative specialist 1, and it was concluded that this was not necessary, and eliminating would save budget. He also has 13 promotions and 13 job reclassifications. Of those, they are predominantly in admin spec, detention, probation, social workers, and also in here a director increase for the director of juvenile. Those are 5%. 5%. Looks like most of these are 5% on all of these detention officers. And these are promotions from a 2 to, it looks like a 3 level on a social worker. And promotion to a 2. Detention officer as well, promotion in levels. And all of them look like they are 5%. Any questions on any of those?
I'd have a question about the 5%. I mean, it seems to me that if we're keeping up with this, why would we get this many at one time?
I don't know how many employees Juvenile has, but 13 of them, let's see, I can show you here. This affects only 20% of his personnel, these promotions and job reclassifications. So only 20% of his office is being eligible for these. I don't know how many other probation, detention, and social workers he has within his office.
Okay, go ahead.
Would you like him to address that, Mr. Chair? or-
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
So back to my question in terms of and this is a general question again, but this is an example. Is this the new position, the removal position, the equivalent of what I was asking in terms of the coroner's office?
This is just removing a PCN and adding a brand new PCN.
Right.
And it looks like the one that was removed was funded less than the new one, so there was some additional funding that had to be applied to this new position, but they're two different positions. So he didn't need this one, but he did need this other one, so he added it. That it wasn't revenue-based, it wasn't anything other than that, it doesn't look like.
The need, it was need-based.
Yeah,
Thanks.
all right. For the job reclassifications, again, those are all essentially very much the same thing. Some of these are administrative, probation officers, and these are promotions, it looks like, within those adjustments as well. All very similar to the ones we just talked about. All of these have been reviewed by HR, and again, all of these are within his budget. Any questions on personnel overall? All right, For his supplemental requests, he has medical supplies and drugs for $26,966. Those are, I believe, all, remind me, Anthony, these are ongoing or one time? So mental health services is ongoing, and medical supplies and drugs are ongoing supplementals, and the 8,000 is a one-time supplemental. All right, any questions on any of those? He had no CIPs or EOEs. And his revenue is based primarily on Medicaid, health services, substance abuse, and various other restitutions and some other things, but it looks like it's slightly down from last year to this year.
Go ahead.
So you indicated that the revenue is basically Medicaid-based?
Medicaid's a portion of it. There's many functions that go into the revenue that he has.
I'm just curious if we'd analyzed it in terms of what may be happening from the DC level in terms of the increase that we may have to contribute as opposed to what the estimate is here. I guess that was my question.
I have not been monitoring that, but Cody, have you paid attention to that?
I can hear the question again.
The question was the revenue for your department revenue. A lot of it is, or what portion of it is, Medicare, Medicaid based, and have you analyzed it in the context of what is happening in DC that may impact what we do get or what we may have to contribute as our portion of it?
Not necessarily from the federal level, what's going on at DC. A big part of that currently is they switched contracts. So they went from Optum Magellan, which was created a lot of turmoil in terms of how we manage it. We had to get it on a contract basis with them, and that's where some of that revenue losses that we weren't able to bill Medicaid. So I didn't analyze it within it, DC, but those are all kind of combined into that process.
Okay. 'Cause I was just trying to get an estimate if we needed to take that into account or potentially take that into account as we're budgeting.
Possibly, yeah. We did see a decrease in some of our, as you mentioned, our grant. I think it was 107,000 down.
So that's reflected in your request?
Yes. So that was a big part of needing the supplemental was some decreases that we did see.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right. Any other questions on juvenile before we move on? Okay, we'll move on to EMS. With Sean Raines, I can't imagine anyone else I would want to see if I was in trouble. He gets it. For his budget, as submitted, $29,444,570. You can see it's over the allocation. He's funding that all with fund balance and revenue increases. We have seen it's up year over year overall. That's predominantly because of his adding the 2 teams, 16 positions of eight-person teams to his rotation. He had no mid-year supplementals, and he has 23 salary our personnel adjustments on the books here. We will roll through those. He also had some new ambulances that he's going to be purchasing, as well as some additional vehicles, which attributed to the overage on his allocation. For positions, again, the 16 new positions are EMTs, AEMTs, I'm probably not getting that right, and some others for the teams, paramedics. And again, those are just brand new positions, all reviewed by HR. And per his brief, you know where those two teams will be working predominantly into his rotation. Any questions on those?
Any questions? Are those new positions because of increased volume?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, yes, the answer to that question is yes. Our call volume has gone up 10,000 calls since 2019, but we have not added any resource since then, and so that's the reason for adding these positions.
And the 10,000, that equates to this many positions?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The 10,000 in increased call volume equates to this many new positions?
Actually, we probably need about 3 more ambulances on the road, but we just can't afford it, so we had to stick with 2, and that's what we're shooting for next year. So we probably need to be adding 5, but it's just not in the budget to be able to do that.
Okay, all right,
Thank
thank you.
He's removing one position. It's a collector position. As you know, they're contracting that out, and it's been very successful for them. They do have two base pay adjustments, as well as 3 job reclassifications and 18 underfills where they are anticipating certification upgrades from a 2 to a 3 or a 1 to a 2 in many of these positions throughout the year. So they want those budgeted so that they can apply as soon as they come in. Any questions on any of those?
Any questions? Nope. Go ahead.
Okay. As you can see, the last 2 years, he has not added any new positions. This year, in fact, last year he went down. This year is a major jump based off those 2 new teams. For the supplemental requests, as mentioned before, 3 new ambulances, an administration vehicle, gurneys, and uniforms as briefed in his briefing. Any questions on any of those? Okay. No other capital operating supplementals, or, sorry, CIPs or EOEs. Do not know what's happening with my screen, but his revenue here, obviously based off a higher volume that he's bringing in, as well as his outsourcing of bill collecting, also added significant increases to his revenue, which is a good case. With no other questions, we'll move on to Parks and Waterways.
Go ahead.
Scott, if you know how to get more done with as little resources as he has, and it's always impressive to me. $1,941,695 for his budget submission. It is $37,000 over his allocation. That is primarily due to 2 capital operating supplementals that he's asking for. His budget is down year over year, and that's a 4-year trend for him. He is squeezing every cent out of what he has in his budget. There are no mid-year requests that he'd put in this year, but he does have 6 personnel adjustments as part of this fiscal year 26, all of which have been approved by HR and within his budget. 2 special salary adjustments for a total of $55.78. Those are for a maintenance mech and a program and education specialist. A 5% and a 5% on the 2 of these. For his market rate adjustments, there are 3 of them. 1 for the director, 1 for booking and events coordinator, and 1 for a trail maintenance crew leader. The 2 for the booking events coordinator and trail maintenance crew leader are within his budget. The 1 that he has for the director's pay is unfunded and will be an unfunded supplemental. And then he has 1 job reclassification, an admin office coordinator instead of an admin specialist per HR's recommendation. Any questions on his personnel requests?
Questions? No.
Okay, historical, he has not asked for any supplemental requests for the last 3 years. The one that is unfunded here, again, is for the director's position. His supplemental requests, refund security deposits for $10,000 and or increase in temporary staff and cost for $20,000. Any additional questions on those?
Nope.
Okay. No EOEs. He does, however, have 2 capital investment programs that he's submitted this year. Barber Park Greenbelt Pathway Restoration, as well as the Barber Park Maintenance Shop and Office Remodel. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, all of those are within fund balance, correct? Yes, all of them have moved within fund balance. Any additional information requested on those 2 projects? Okay, overall, his revenue is flat year over year. And again, a pretty simple budget for parks. For waterways, there are no personnel as part of this, but overall budget is $250,700 over. That is due to a one-time fund balance increase for these supplemental requests for maintenance of operation, increasing funding, and new dock frames, as well as the ROV, remote operated vehicle, as well as the trailer to operate that, all again funded within fund balance for those. No revenue, there is revenue, but those are predominantly from boat licenses from the state. Looks like it's slightly up. Any questions on waterways? Okay. Move on to TCA then.
Actually, maybe I can ask, I'm wondering where we're at on fee increases for use of the Barber Park Event Center and how that might play into revenue, and even wondering about fees for the float season, our contract with the vendor, and if we're looking at any raises in the future on that.
Thank you, Chairman Beck, Commissioner Davidson. Good question. As far as the event center rates are concerned, we do evaluate that and do kind of a market analysis on that. Once every year, we have made several adjustments over the past few years. We do feel like we're within appropriate market for the fees for the event center. They're consistent with private enterprise, other public enterprises that operate similar facilities. I think we'll evaluate it again at the turn of the fiscal year. We do book the event center 1 year in advance, so when we do make those changes, we have kind of a threshold by where we change that rate for any new folks that are interested in renting the facility. But at this point, we feel like we're pretty confident with what we are currently charging for fees at the event center. We do not host events any longer during the annual float season on the Boise River for the weekend days. So it's a bit of a hit there. The trade-off is, we try to do the best we can for supporting the float season operations. It's just too busy in the park to have an event the same day we would have a float season operating.
How about the money we're making off of, the vendors and the contracts for float season? Has that been evaluated at all to see if we should, increase the rate for that?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Davidson, yes, we have evaluated that in the past. We did some internal analysis with Ada County staff that was extremely supportive of the current contract we do have. I do anticipate, given the number of renewals we've had on this contract, that we will likely put it out on the street for next season, and we might reevaluate the rates of revenue return and revenue share for the county. Currently, the way that's written up is we have we have three installment fees of $25,000 apiece throughout the course of the season, so $75,000 off the top goes to the county, and then any revenues accrued over a $200,000 threshold to the tune of 20% are given to the county for the rental concession and shuttle service. So it has been helpful and supportive. It obviously is a busier facility, and we do really facilitate the efficient management of that. So I would expect us to achieve our revenue targets this year. reevaluate the contract like we do every year and potentially put it out on the street to see if there's anybody else that can provide those services.
Thank you.
Sure. For the trial court administrator, Sandra's a great partner and always brings a smile and a laugh, which is always enjoyable to work with her. We work closely in the courts. Her budget, $8,976,585, is $73,000 over the allocation. That is primarily due to one unfunded marshal that she is requesting that is being transferred from ARPA-funded money. Her budget overall is down 7.4% in operating, almost flat in personnel, and down in capital. Year over year, she is down in her budget. She has 9 wage increases that were mid-year. Those were legal assistants, process server, and staff attorneys that received those increases. Probably hard to read, but these, again, were all reviewed by HR in the PA process and approved by this board. PCNs are loaded on there, but again, sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't know if these are vacant PCNs or underfunded PCNs or what on those. For FY26, 7 wage increases, overall 16 adjustments for the TCA's office. There are 4 new positions, 3 of which are funded within her budget. Those are 3 marshals. And then there is 1 marshal that is unfunded. That's why she's looking for a supplemental on that one. There is a special salary adjustment. There's 4 of them actually for legal assistants. 3 are going down and 1 is going up. And then 1 job reclassification for a drug and alcohol counselor. And then 4 underfills for 2 law clerks and 2 drug and alcohol counselors, moving from a level 1 to a level 2 in those positions. All for $294,638, most of which was, again, funded within her budget. The one that is not is the 1 additional marshal of the 4 that she requested. Any questions on any of those?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. I know that's not unusual, but the positions, because we funded with ARPA dollars, I think 4 marshals. Wasn't it 4? I forget.
There was 7, I believe, initially that were funded.
7,
with ARPA.
yes. And then that terminated, and you're saying just 1 is from the, you're wanting to fund it that was an ARPA. What about those other 3? Were they not ARPA funded as well?
All 7 of them were initially ARPA funded. Last year, I believe Sandra brought on 3 to her budget, so they came off of ARPA funding. And then these 4 additional ones are the ones that she's looking to transition to her budget without being ARPA funded as well this year. So there were 3 that already transitioned. Now she's just looking at the additional remaining 4.
So these 4, and you're saying they're within her allocation?
3 of the 4 are within her allocation. 1 of them is not.
Huh.
Meaning she found some sort of savings in her, either in her A budget or B budget, to fund those herself without using ARPA funds. But the 1 she doesn't have enough money for within her budget to fund.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, moving on, no operating supplementals and no EOEs or CIPs for Sandra's office. For her revenue, she increased that predominantly due to the case that we have coming up this summer and the costs associated with it. Any additional questions for the TCA?
I don't have any questions. Go ahead.
Okay, next, problem-solving court. In problem-solving court, you can see the total budget there, $3.6 million, up in personnel and up in operating. Again, the funding for this predominantly comes from state revenue. She is adding 8 new positions this year, which accounts for the budget increase year over year. Those 8 new positions are drug screen techs, a supervisor for the drug screen techs, and an admin assistant. They have all been HR approved and are within the budget as based off her increased revenue. For FY26, there's also 6 market rate adjustments, a job reclass, and a part-time to full-time. For the market rates, there's 4 drug screen technicians, reclasses, 1 drug alcohol counselor from a 1 to a 2, and a part-time to full-time for an admin assistant. Any additional details you would like on any of those?
I don't, go ahead.
Okay. There are no supplementals or EOEs or capital CIPs for this department. And again, revenue is up predominantly from the state revenue. All right, court monitoring. I'll pull it up, but it's rather boring. It's the same every year. $30,000. Flattest budget in our county. $30,000 every year. No personnel adjustments or anything else. Okay. Next, operations. Bob is one of the straightest shooters I've ever encountered, which I love as a former fighter pilot. He's a good dude. Budget submission this year, $17,397,978. That is $76,000 over allocation. That is primarily due to not enough funding for the 1 position that he is looking to add. That is the warehouse manager, assuming the warehouse remodel gets approved by the board. His budget is down year over year. He has 19 personnel adjustments as submitted in this year's budget. The 1 new position is the 1 unfunded supplemental he has. The others are within his budget. For the new position, again, it's a warehouse manager position for the new warehouse, assuming we go that route. The rest of these are HR approved and funded within the budget. 4 market rate adjustments for the operations manager, assistant director, facility maintenance, and finance manager. 2 base pay adjustments for a mail clerk and a maintenance tech, and 13 underfills anticipating maintenance mechanics and maintenance techs going from level 1 to level 2 on those. He has had no supplementals the last 2 years. This year, again, the 1 unfunded supplemental for that new position. For operating supplementals, this may be, it happened in '22, but this is rare. No operating supplementals for operations, which again is a very incredible feat for operations. There is 1 capital investment program, as mentioned, the Morris Hill Storage remodel for the warehouse option for the county to save on the external storage costs that we have and increase our efficiencies there. That is for $1.1 million. Any additional questions or information you would like on that CIP request?
Go ahead.
Just the savings, it's not reflected here, but what's the savings in terms of if we do that at 1.1 million, then the savings in terms of consolidating of
And where does that come from, and wouldn't that pay for the warehouse manager?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's roughly about $50,000 in savings from all the different storage units that we rent. The goal would be to hopefully move all of that from the storage units into this complex. So there'll be a savings there. It's in multiple budgets right now because it's different departments that have the funding that's listed in their budgets. So we'll have to navigate what that looks like. A big part of it is a warehouse piece that we share with the treasurer's office. We're looking at timing on that and make sure that doesn't impact how they operate out of the Cloverdale warehouse for the small piece that we have on the other side. So navigating that, and then the bigger goal is to get all of the document storage as well out from the basement area victim services center so that we free up about 25,000 square feet in that space here in downtown to be able to hopefully expand what that mission looks like or what the county needs. So there's kind of some other benefits as well, aside from just the savings. Doesn't quite cover the cost of the warehouse manager. There are some other things that we think will lead to some efficiencies, whether it's shipping and receiving out of the same location. It can be things like inventory control, inventory management that allows us to utilize parts instead of them sitting on the shelf for different components throughout the county as well. So we think there's some other factors that will tie in that will lead to savings over time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There you can see his revenue, essentially flat year over year, predominantly from rebates on energy and parking fees for our parking facilities. Any questions on operations?
Any questions? No. Go ahead.
Okay. Solid waste.
Just
Okay.
one question. On the income for operations
For revenue?
revenue, yeah. So it was 593, and you said that, what's the source? You said one was parking, what's
Rebates on energy are predominantly the big ones for him. There's a couple within there, some small ones, but the big ones are the rebates on energy as well as the parking are the big ones
the parking for
for our employees, the fees that we bring from our 2 parking garages here downtown.
and that's employees as well as other paid people? Can we find the breakout of that somewhere?
Yeah.
Commissioner Daly, so roughly 50% of our revenue that we bring in is from parking, and part of that includes the tenants that are over in the Second Street garage. So that revenue comes into our budget, and then whatever county employees are charged, whether the limited amount that's charged for them, and then there's also some additional tenants over at the Water Center building that come into our budget as well. So all of that parking revenue comes in, then we also have all the expense to maintain the garages, do life safety, all those kind of things in those. And then we have about $20,000 budgeted annually for the Idaho Power incentives that come back in. And then, so you'll saw in my presentation, we have about $128,000 that came in this year, $20,000 going to my budget, a portion into the ARPA, and the rest will go into the general fund. So that's typically how those lay out. And then there is some revenue. It shows as revenue, but it's not a true revenue. It's a charge back to some of the groups that are like the landfill, Expo. Yeah, enterprise funds, sorry, that's the word I was looking for. Enterprise funds, if we do work out there in there, then there's kind of a chargeback component that we see as well. And so we lay all that out for the different departments heading into budget so they know what they can expect.
Go ahead. So all of those revenue, as you parcel out, like Expo, whatever, it all comes into you as revenue and not other places, even though other, like parking, et cetera, maybe somebody else are actually collecting it, as it were.
So all the parking gets collected through the car parks. We have a contract with the car parks. They manage all of our operations for us. They collect all the revenue, and then they pay us. So that's how the revenue comes into the county. We don't collect it personally unless it goes through, I think, a payroll deduction.
But it's allocated. I mean, it's
allocated in our budget, yeah, based off of the number of parking permits that we have. We can pull reports to see how many parking permits we have, how many tenants are paying for parking over in the Second Street garage and so forth.
okay. Thank you.
Speaking of parking, curious, are we charging CCDC anything to use our parking lot to do the construction back there?
You're talking about the gravel lot back there?
Yeah.
So the gravel lot is actually owned by Idaho Power, and then we lease it. And so we lease 23 spaces annually. That comes out of my budget as well to pay for that. It used to be $0, and then they now charge about $10,000 a year for those spaces back there. So
I remember it came out of nowhere. We got it for free, and then all of a sudden, Idaho Power wants $10,000 a year for it.
it did. It came out of nowhere, and we negotiated pretty heavily with them. Aspen, the PA's office, did a great job helping us. They wanted significantly more initially, and we were able to get it down to the $10,000 mark. It's still about 30, I think $38 a spot is where that lands. So it's still cheaper than what downtown rates are on a monthly basis, but definitely when you go from $1 to $10,000, it's a little bit of impact to the budget.
But are we charging CCDC anything to use it, or are we just letting them use it for free?
So we are not charging them. I don't know how it works in the agreement. If we can sublease it, it's Idaho Power's property. So I think they're the ones that gave CCDC and Wright Brothers access to it through the backside, and then we put together a access agreement with Wright Brothers to come through county's property to get back into that space. But the actual space is technically owned and controlled by Idaho Power.
Because we haven't been able to use it too much since the construction started.
We have not, yeah, it's been a much bigger impact than we initially planned. They were supposed to just build a ramp and drive through and drive up into that space and kind of do a loop through. Once they got the project going, they realized they couldn't do it in that manner, so that they had to shift gears a little bit. And we've worked with Wright Brothers to navigate what that looks like and try to figure out the best approach. And hopefully they'll be done here soon. The goal is a couple more weeks, and then they'll be out of our way back there, and we can get back to business as usual for us.
Yeah, I really didn't think a simple pathway would take as long as it has.
It's taken a while. They've had a couple of different changes throughout the process. Some of them are driven by some safety concerns from Idaho Power with potential arc flash across, since it is a high-power generation system back there. So they've had to navigate a couple of those things, but it sounds like everything's in place and moving, and hopefully they'll pour the path here with concrete in the next couple of weeks, and like I said, be out of that back lot.
Thank you.
Any other questions on operations? Okay, we'll move on to solid waste. Herb is one of the most even-keeled people I've ever met. Calm and collected, and I love working with him. He's a good man. $21,943,452 for his budget. That is a year-over-year down, and many of the equipment and projects that he has added into this budget per his brief, we'll cover here in a second. For his personnel request this year, he had one mid-year. That was an environmental compliance tech lead. I'm sorry, yes, it was an environmental compliance tech lead. Again, that was approved by HR and approved by this board. Again, within the budget authority, within those PCNs that they move from one to the other. There is also a mid-year, and as part of this budget cycle for this board, we have said that the PA process for this fiscal year 25 is closed. And so departments had an opportunity to submit mid-year adjustments as part of this budget process this year. And so this is one that has been submitted in his budget for this year, and it is per the new PA process that was developed for the board. This is moving, it's a job reclass, moving from one PCN to another. Budget salary, $109,000. So those two PCNs are the ones that are affected. It's a $20,018 change. And it's for the scale house operator. Any questions on that one? As part of the deliberations, you'll either approve or deny these as well, as far as this fiscal year. For the FY26 adjustments, one special salary adjustment, again, for a scale house operator, one base pay for a heavy equipment operator, and 3 promotions, 2 landfill techs, and 1 environmental compliance tech. All within budget, been submitted to HR and reviewed and approved. No supplementals for him, as he is a enterprise fund there, self-supported fund. And he has 1 capital investment program, the Scale House inbound, outbound optimization, $1.5 million, again, funded by fund balance. Any questions on that particular project? Okay. For revenue, obviously, he has multiple sources of revenue from contract dollars and franchise fees, a mixture of those, but overall, his budget is flat. Just slightly up, maybe $500,000 from 21.5 to $22 million for revenue. Any questions for Herb and the landfill?
No, I don't have it. Yeah, go ahead.
Just back to what I asked when he gave his presentation in terms of his fund, how he delineates his fund in terms of the individual items like the closure, the separating the funds. I know we discussed that, but what I guess is for him, for you, how do we do that in terms of facilitating the more transparency for the users, for the general public, as well as people he may have to interface with?
He's reached out to our office and figuring out how to do that so that it's a little bit easier to track and to identify those things, but he's better to answer that question than I am. Herb?
I guess main question is there something we need to do in terms of the budget other than what you're already discussing with the clerk?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Daly. In regards to your inquiry regarding the financial assurance funds for closure, post-closure, and corrective action, currently it all resides under the Fund 126. Our request to the auditor's office was to create separate funds for closure, post-closure, and corrective actions because they all have a different liability level or fund amount, and the duration or timing when those kick in are all different. So it's important that we are able to show those fund balances to the SWAT committee and other constituents within Ada County as to what those funding levels are and those balances. A great example is IRWS shut down prematurely. Those funding levels weren't truly understood for those obligations, and ultimately, Elmore County was lucky that Republic bought that landfill because, or else the residents would have been required to fund that cleanup if it was not purchased by Republic Services. Another good example is in California, Chiquita Canyon landfill. The private operator actually walked away from that landfill and shut its doors. A 7,000 ton per day site, roughly 3 times our size, they actually shut the doors and are using financial assurance funds to cover that environmental liability and situation over there. And most likely will run out of funds, and that will also be the obligations of the residents to cover that liability. So I think if we can create a mechanism to show that transparency on those funding balances and ensure that we're tracking appropriately in accordance with the calculations from our engineer of record to maintain those balances would be, I think, beneficial to the community to understand where we're at there. Today, there's no mechanism or resolution on moving those funds. Essentially, every year, my finance officer sends a memo over to the auditor's office to move X amount of funds into an account, but there is no mechanism. It doesn't show up anywhere in our budget. It's just a memo. So I think there needs to be an evaluation of that entire process to create some transparency there.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, go ahead.
So I guess that was my real question. Is there something we need to do, not only in terms of the budget to help facilitate that, because I think there's an agreement to kind of try to get that happen.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have in the future, and maybe guidance from Trent as well on this process, is some type of resolution documenting what that process looks like to move the funds and how it's captured in the budget in the future. There's nowhere in here on these documents that show the movement of those funds into the 126 account. When I say movement of funds, I'm referring movement of money from the operating fund into those financial assurance funds or pot.
Follow another one?
Go ahead.
So that then would help us in terms of if we have, when we do our cost review for implementation, if we have to raise rates or whatever, that would help us do that?
Yes, we'd be able to, currently what we're doing today is tracking those funds manually within our own internal documentation. In the future, the idea would be if there was a public records request to the clerk's office in regards to those allocations, they could immediately answer those questions without having to even reach out to our department. So,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Daly.
Any other questions for landfill?
I don't. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Oh, no, go ahead.
Next up, Mr. Chair, is Prosecutor, but I request a 10-minute break for people to use the little boys and little girls room for a little while.
All right, we'll take a 10-minute break. Be back here in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
So, go ahead,
All right, Mr.
Clerk.
Chair. Up next, we will go through the Prosecutor's Office. Jan is one of the most honorable and dedicated people I know. Just like Sean, if I was hurt, I would want him around. If I was in trouble, I would want Jan around, because I know she'd fight for me. For the Prosecutor's Office, their budget came in at $23,324,000 and change. They are within their allocation. They are not requesting any additional supplementals other than the CIP, which we'll talk about. They are within their budget, and all of their personnel requests that they have submitted have been reviewed by HR and approved. You can see budget is down year over year from last year to this year. For her,
Isn't that kind of against the protocol to go down?
several have gone down, yes.
I'm
So
just
we have a
joking.
lot of people bucking protocol. For her personnel wage increases over this last fiscal year, the number seems high. Let me explain that in the prosecutor's office, they handle their PCNs differently than the rest of the county. They assign a name to a PCN. And then throughout their career within the prosecutor's office, that PCN moves with that person. So if there's a promotion or they move around, that requires a PA to fund that position. But she's always done it within her budget allocation. So all of these are budget neutral. And that's why you see quite a few of them throughout the year from her. Other offices are doing promotions like she does. They're just moving bodies to different PCNs, which doesn't require a budget authority move.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
So the 207 is the increases, but not the net increases.
It's not a net increase. It's just these positions have moved up a total of $207,000. There is an offset to that within her budget that she has to account for in order for those to happen mid-year. 67 of them, I can open them. They're all various lawyers and different things that are moving from different levels. Lawyer 1 to all the way up to lawyer 5 and some different things within her budget. For this year's fiscal 26 request, there were 9 that she is asking for additional funding for, and then some adjustments to other things to make room for those. For the FY26, 9 personnel adjustments, 1 new position, a victims witness coordinator, and then 7 base pay adjustments for around $60,000. Again, various attorneys moving from 1 to 5 in different directions, IPA, executive director, as well as a training coordinator. So 6 job reclassifications for legal interns, admins, and assistants, and then 2 part-time to full-time legal assistants. Are there any questions on any of those requests? Again, all within her budget. None of them are supplemental. She, for the last 3 years, has not requested any supplementals for funding for her personnel. If this one was approved, as you can see, the budgeted positions for her, she'd move from 184 to 185 in the upcoming year. For her operating supplementals, again, the 1 year she had 1, but outside of that is requested 0 operating supplementals, no EOEs, and then obviously the 1 capital investment program that she's submitted this year. She's been before the board to look at alternative funding for that. I think the board is entertaining that, so that could come off this budget request as we go forward. But that is for the Victims Service Center remodel. For her revenue, she is prominently IPA, state, and contract city makes up the lion's share of those revenues for her, as well as other fees and stuff. Any questions on her revenues? It's slightly up year over year. Actually, it's down based off the budget, the additional grants that may come in.
Okay, go ahead.
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was talk of starting a new foundation specifically to fundraise for the Ada County Victim Services Center, sort of take over where, the previous group left off. I'm just wondering what the status of that is, and at some point in the future, will we be doing some private fundraising to help offset the cost of the Victim Services Center?
I'm sure Jan would love to answer that.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Commissioner Davidson, yes, we have started that. We started slow. Right now, what we're covering are things that really the other entities, partners don't cover. So for example, emergency services for domestic violence victims, if they need, a lock change or something like that to their house, things like that that we're fundraising for, and certainly can update you in more detail on that at any time. We do have sufficient funding right now, but certainly, I think to your point, we'll be doing more community events to do fundraising for that kind of a thing. So thank you for the question.
Isn't that private funding, isn't that for things like gas cards and hotel
Things like
vouchers?
that,
and things,
yes.
Things like that for personal, that's needed,
Mr. Chairman, yes,
that the
correct.
county hasn't been able to pay for.
Correct, and that the other partners can't pay for or don't have funding to pay for. So we look at, across all of our partners, we helped, I think to Commissioner Davidson's point, try to provide those things as well for our partners. Again, nonprofit, we got our 501c3 status, and community members are volunteering to be on that board, and certainly happy to introduce you to them, and as we kind of kicked it off in the last year.
Do you recall, was there an average amount per year being raised by the previous incarnation when they were doing the fundraising?
Gosh, I would have to go back. Sorry, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Davidson, I would have to go back and look. But yeah, I think they fundraised for various things. But we're, like I said, we're kind of focused on not funding positions or things like that, reaching out to our partners, having partners who are doing the services for our victims, and then funding things through that they can't fund. They don't have a revenue way or expense way to pay for that. And so we'll look at those and we'll review and vote whether to approve them. But it's really things that they just can't pay for.
Are you planning to do, one of these big fundraising yearly galas in the future? Is that something you're considering?
Chairman Beck, Commissioner Davidson, not yet. I think smaller at this point. We kind of want to make sure that we're not raising too much, just enough to meet the needs of the partners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other additional questions for prosecutor?
Any questions? Nope.
Okay, on to procurement. I just have one thing to say about Bob. This man solves problems, period. I like that guy. Overall budget for him came in at $1,105,088. Slightly up on the personnel side, down on the operating side, slightly up year over year. He is $101,627 over his allotment. However, that is primarily due to one position, which during his brief, I believe he withdrew. So that should come back down some. There are no mid-year supplementals for him. The 3 personnel adjustments he is requesting additional funding for this year are 2 special salary adjustments for procurement offices. Again, those are unfunded, as well as a market rate adjustment for the director, and that is unfunded as well. So outside of this new position, which he has withdrawn, these are the supplementals that he will be asking for, which will drop this request down significantly for personnel supplementals. That would increase his office if you were to get the one new position, 8 to 9, but he's held steady over the last 3 years with 8 bodies. For supplemental requests, he has one for the computer and office equipment for the new buyer, so obviously that would go away without the funding of the new position. For the capital investment program, this is where we have the fleet replacement project. This would be year 2 of the 2-year program that the board approved this last year. So that would be up for a funding approval again this year for the board. Any questions on that? Okay. His Department of Revenue, he has none, but he does a lot of work. So don't let that fool you. Any questions on the procurement?
Well, I should have some departmental revenue because he sells stuff that, like extra stuff. Where does that go?
I don't know that that goes into his budget, but I'm going to have to ask Tim about that.
It does go into his budget. He just doesn't budget for it because it's too unknown.
Well, yeah.
So it looks like he has some revenue coming in, $19,000 so far this year, but we don't budget for it because we don't know what's coming.
Sure.
Okay, moving on, HR. Bethany and her team have a heavy lift, but she always makes it look easy with her team, and I appreciate that very much. She came in at $3,114,477. That is $504,000 over budget this year, primarily due to 3 personnel adjustments, 3 additional positions, and some new software. Her budget is up year over year, predominantly because of the personnel request, but also the software that she's asking in the operating portion here. For mid-year, there was 2 mid-years. They were reviewed and approved by the board. I am not going to open those because I'm afraid they may have names on them because as HR goes, they are very personal people and they might have put names in there, so we'll refrain from opening them. However, on the 3 new positions, as per briefed, she's requesting a communications engagement specialist, a human resource manager, and a compensation analyst, and she is removing 1 position, an admin investigator. There are 8 special salary adjustments to backfill some positions, bring some others up, and to address movements within the office as well as changes in job responsibilities. There is 1 market rate, a base, conditional, and lump sum in here as well for various reasons. Again, those are all unfunded and looking for supplemental support on those. Any questions on the personnel?
Any questions? Nope.
For a supplemental request, $54,000. This is a combination of a couple of different things, a certificate tracking software as well as help with ADP and benefits, as well as an additional one that I can't read there. But it's in there. Any questions on any of those?
Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
Okay. No EOEs or CIPs for the last 2 years, as well as this year. And again, she got lucky in FY22 and got $170 in revenue, but normally doesn't get any other revenue. All right. Any other further questions? We'll move on.
I'll ask a question for if Bethany's here, if she
Sure.
wants to tackle it. I got interviewed by the Idaho Statesman recently about the budget, and, you know, one of the big topics was how much the legislature, you know, mandates that the county does. Got me thinking about your department. One of the biggest landmines you have is HR lawsuits, personnel lawsuits. I mean, that's one of the biggest things your department has to deal with as far as liability to the county. And it kind of makes me wonder, because it's come up before, what state code, the position the state code puts us into regarding some of these, you know, employment lawsuits, and that we're sort of held captive to some of the state regulations about what we can and can't do. And we've tried to address some in the past with the legislature, and I don't think we got anywhere. But I mean, can you talk about, you know, how much liability we have as a result of state laws? And, you know, is there anything we could present to the legislature that would make it a little bit more fair for the county when dealing with kind of these employment issues?
Chairman, Commissioner Davidson, thank you for your question. The great part about our work and with the employment law and those areas that impact us is it's really think about an umbrella. At the end of the day, there are federal regulations that are the overarching. Then within that is state, which oftentimes there are pieces that add some clarifiers. The state of Idaho is very unregulated. If we looked at some of the others in the Pacific Northwest in particular, or even on the West Coast, there's some additional pieces that are added from the state of Idaho. However, here in the state of Idaho, it's very lean at that level. Any of the Idaho Human Rights Commission work or whatnot, that runs in parallel with the federal that applies for those areas of risk for the county. And so for HR, it doesn't really have any significant impacts in regards to those regulations at the state level. They run in accordance with the federal to help us stay compliant in that regard. There's really only one outlier, but it really doesn't have an impact, and it's very notable and longstanding in Idaho, and that is veterans' preference in application and selection for positions, their initial appointment within an agency. And that has been managed for a long time and very nominal impact to us as far as from taking our time or impacting us in any kind of way.
We'd previously looked at some whistleblower abuse legislation. Was that was specific to the Idaho Code and maybe revamping the process to protect us from abuse of the whistleblower statute?
Yeah, and as far as, whistleblower goes, certainly, that can vary from each situation there, but I know that our prosecutor's office, particularly our civil division, manages that very well and watches that to help with us in our day in and day out activities. Outside of that, I really don't have much more that I can add in that regard.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I won't say anything about our office because I'll get too emotional and there's no crying in budgeting briefings. So for the auditor, recorder, and elections, which is a small portion of my office, majority of it is clerks, court clerks. Our budget, $8,985,660. It is up in personnel. We have some personnel adjustments that we're requesting this year, all funded within our budget. Operating, we have here for slightly up, and then our capital, we eliminated that altogether this year. We do have an increase in revenue of $598,000. Overall, year over year, we did have a slight increase. Generally, our trend has been down for the last several years. We did have one personnel mid-year adjustment. That was for an admin director, a change within our front office. For supervisory responsibilities, again, that was reviewed by HR and approved by this board mid-year. We have 30 in here for consideration, 6 new positions, of which 4 of those are transfers, so they're not actually new positions. They're moving from consolidated elections funding to general funding, but we are bringing on 2 new positions I'll address here in a second, as well as 10 special salary adjustments and 20 market rate adjustments. Of the new positions, we have 1 new position in BOCG because of the demand there for the guardians that we are responsible for. We have, again, like I mentioned, the 4 elections transfers, which make up about $342,000 of that from Consolidated. We'll move those into the general fund, and then we will reimburse the general fund from Consolidated. So it's a net neutral for us. And then 1 new elections position based off the technicality or the technology that we are dealing with. We need some additional help in that regime. For special salary adjustments, all of these have been reviewed by HR and approved. 5 for our admin positions, 3 in elections, 1 in auditor, and 1 in recorder, and then market rate adjustments for 8 of our auditors, 5 in the recorder's office, and 7 in elections. Any questions on any of those from the board?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, back onto your revenue, your 500 and whatever thousand it was. Where did that, I'm assuming it's the recorder is basically where your revenue comes from in the audit, recorder, and elections.
We do get some from recording, but our recording revenue has not been stellar the last couple of years based off the interest rates. The increase in our revenue this year is predominantly from moving that consolidated elections positions over. So that'd be revenue that we're using to replace those positions with, as well as $250,000 in collections which we are bringing through the old indigent program. So they've been very successful, and we've increased that revenue stream to match what we're projecting.
So those are the two primary revenue sources then, okay? Thank you.
They're not the primary revenue sources. That's what predominantly makes up our increase.
The increase.
Yeah, we do have revenue obviously coming in from
Just-
recorder's office
right.
and other things, fees and passports and those types of stuff.
But that's the source of the increase.
That's the source of the
Year
increase.
over year.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yep. Any questions on anything else other than the personnel? If we were to get those 6 new positions, really 4 of which are a transfer, we'd go from 54 to 60 positions. Then obviously in Consolidated, we'd go from 4 to 0. So overall net increase of 2 for our office. For supplemental requests, we've had none for the last 4 years. EOEs, we've had a couple. Let me see if I can get this. Love Excel. Hold on. There we go. We didn't have any last year, but we do have the elections voting system upgrade for this year that we are asking for in the CIP. I'm thinking about it. Is the remodeling here for us as well? Oh, it's in the courts. That's why it's not in here. Okay, sorry. The elections voting system upgrade as briefed in our thing. Any other additional questions on that I can answer for you? Okay. The full cost of that is $3.8 million. We are funding $1 million of it with consolidated fund balance. And then you can see our revenue increases there, again, as I've already explained, from year over year. Any questions for me?
Any questions? No, go ahead.
Okay. Oh,
Mr. Chairman.
yes.
You got a question?
Shared revenues. What is the shared revenues?
Anthony?
Those are the shared revenues from last year, so that'd be shared state sales tax.
So it's revenue from the state that's shared with us. Is that, so it's primarily sales tax?
Sales tax, revenue sharing, liquor tax.
Placeholder.
So that's why it's shared revenue, because it's
Yes.
revenue sharing from the state.
Yeah, so each department within the general fund receives a portion of the shared revenue that we get from the state, and this was the auditor's office portion last year.
Okay, that was my next question. How's that parceled up? So how do we decide how we distribute that shared revenue?
I sit in my office, throw spitballs at the wall, and so we allocate property tax first, and then we go to shared revenue within the general fund, because it can, so with shared revenue, it can only be allocated in the general fund. It cannot be allocated to anybody else within the 3% cap. So we allocate that shared revenue first, and then we move on to property tax, because that affects the general fund and the 3% cap also. And a lot of that's also based on, the department says they increase their revenue, and then we allocate the property tax, and then anything else is a use of fund balance. And then again, that goes back through depending on, the department's request and what's one-time expenditures and stuff. And that's what we do to balance each department. And it takes it takes a couple of weeks to do. It's very frustrating when you get towards the end and you're $2 off.
Yeah, so it's like the penny in your checkbook, yeah.
Yeah.
So the department revenue, what's that? Because it's almost the same as shared revenue.
So that would be the recording fees, passport, true department earned revenue, or from user fees for that department. Like I said, most part of that for our office is recording fees and passport.
What other departments, like motor vehicles, would
Right.
be fees that they're charging or
Right.
other things like
Right.
that? So every department has not every department has a revenue source, but some departments have services that they provide for a fee, and that would be a revenue source.
Right. And back to the question we asked the other people. So how often do we look at those fees in relation to the general, if we're providing similar services, somebody has like Passport,
Yeah.
how do we reconcile that in the competition as well as just the reality of what it costs us?
We would love support from this board to go to the legislature and change what we can charge for recording fees. We attempted to do that a couple of years ago and were not successful. There's a lot of fees that go across in the statute, like claims to mines and all kinds of things throughout the state that are all governed by that statute. We would love to go to a different form of funding those things or different levels of cost for these, but there's a lot of lobbyists that are not in favor of that, that don't want to see these fees increased.
Excuse, another question. So they're precisely fixed, or they're the amount, like same thing we were dealing with the health districts.
Yeah.
We tried to get that legislation this year too, so that each health district could set their based on the costs. So okay.
It's complicated. The fees that we can charge for different recordings vary based off the type of recording it is. We wanted to go to a general flat recording fee, and there was a lot of folks that didn't want to do that. It simplified things. It made things a lot easier for us and would save us money, but they wanted to keep all the various different levels of fees for different things.
So have you calculated that in terms of the state mandate? This is actually costing the taxpayers of Ada County, both in the health district, because we pay the bulk of that. We can't charge fees that are in relation to the cost. Same thing that we're talking about here. Have you looked at that, not only for your office, but like the health district and other places in the county that are having the same kind of a problem where we
haven't done a necessarily deep dive on the actual cost. We've had a lot of research done because we proposed that legislation. Heather Luther has done a lot of work on that. I can get you some more information on what she's come up with if you'd like.
That would be useful for us in the legislative session, because that's part of what we were trying to do here with the cost mandated and the costs that they mandate us to do, and it's both in the mandate of to do things as well as mandating to do things and then limiting the amount we can charge for it. Thank you.
Yep. All right, moving on to Consolidated. This is based off of sales tax, again, revenue sharing from the state to pay for consolidated elections. You can see that budget has been going up year over year. That's based off of formula and population that we get. So we have been seeing increases in that, and that has been good for us. As already mentioned, we used to have 4 positions in this department, but now we are moving them over into the general fund, so this is going from 4 to 0. And the money that has been used to pay for those out of Consolidated will be used to reimburse the general fund for those positions. So again, a net neutral for us. And there are no supplemental or EOE CIPs for this fund. And you can see the revenue is the same as the budget that we get. So we pay what we expend what we get other than fund balance, which we can save up over time with Consolidated.
So back to what we were saying is that revenue is the share of revenue sharing, sales tax revenue going directly for elections.
This one is different than the general sales tax revenue sharing. This is specific for elections, and it's calculated separately than the rest of the revenue sharing that we get from the state.
So the state does that to every county based on the cost of elections.
Not the cost, but the population.
Again, back to what I was saying before.
Yeah, sure.
That's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
So it relates to the population, not if we have a higher percentage of participation, in other words, higher, then it's going to cost us more. But it's only based on the population, not the participation. And it's based on a formula, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to courts.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
if this last election we had, for the taxing districts had been consolidated into the November 2025 election, how much money would your department have saved?
I don't know that I can give you an exact number. I could find it.
Estimate?
Anthony, any idea how much that election cost?
$400,000.
But it wouldn't be a net savings, because if the participation in that election would obviously move to November, so the cost would increase for November because you have more people on the ballot there and higher turnout than you would normally have. So there would be some savings, but it wouldn't be a complete savings by just eliminating the election, unless you eliminated the election altogether and none of those candidates ever had to run.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a curiosity question as well, like Commissioner Davidson's. So the cost per vote to handle the election, because of the participation was lower, is much higher cost per vote cast, correct?
That is correct. Okay, for courts, courts overall, $11,590,313, flat overall. We had a decrease in capital operating, obviously because of the computers that the board was so gracious to help us purchase this last year. For personnel, we had no mid-year personnel changes. We do have 16 requests. There is one new position, again, funded within budget for an in-court clerk universal floater that can move from different floors and help out. That is a result of the study that we did for the court's evaluation. We also have 16 special salary adjustments, 11 front counters, civil front counters for retention, as well as the complexity of the work that we're asking them to do with high turnover rates, as well as 5 domestic unit clerks, again, because of the complexity of the work that they're dealing with in their work. Any questions on any of those? Again, all of those are funded. All of them have been approved by HR.
Any questions? No, go ahead.
There are no other supplementals in here other than the one CIP, again, for the combined treasurer and clerk remodel that we will be funding with fund balance out of district court.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's split in half. There's 519, yours 519. Basically.
I don't know if the level of effort is exactly 50%. It was just easy for us to split it in half and use fund balance for one and general fund for the other.
Thanks.
For revenue, mostly ours come from copy fees and court costs that we are reimbursed, and that is essentially slightly up year over year, but basically flat. Any questions on courts? Okay, on to trash billing. Here, $7,681,555 self-supported fund. Personnel is down, and we have operating slightly up. Year over year, budget is up based off the increased revenue that we are projecting. Part of that is because we've worked with Herb on the tipping fees and evaluating what those are, and that has been a very positive engagement with him and has helped our office tremendously. We're keeping it 4 employees. We do have one market rate adjustment for the supervisor within this department. It has been approved by HR and is within the budget for this department. There are no supplementals, EOEs, or CIPs. And again, the revenue is up slightly based again off the evaluation of our new system of tipping fees. Any questions on trash billing?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, next up, weed, pest, and mosquito. Start with weed. Adam, what I'd like to say about him is he's one of these guys that I'd like standing next to me in a dark alley. He looks like a fighter, but I also know he is extremely loyal and has a soft heart, so he wouldn't run away, which is good. Overall budget within weed, and again, remember, we're looking at weed, pest, and mosquito kind of almost as a combined unit here, and you'll see that with some of his requests that he's spread out over these 3 different departments. But with weed, overall, within his budget, he's slightly down on personnel and slightly up on operating. He is down year over year from his budget from last year. He has 6 personnel adjustments, 5 market rate adjustments, and again, these 5 market rates are going to be spread over the 3 different departments. So between the position of director, 2 specialists, account clerks, and a supervisor and an admin assistant, actually not the admin assistant, the others, those are all spread across the 4 different departments, and I will mention those. Overall, it's a 3% increase for the director, a 5% increase for the supervisor. For the account clerk, it's a 12% increase. And for the specialized inventory and a specialist for the inventory and a specialist for education, a 1% increase for the inventory and an 8% increase for the education. But that's combined over the 3 different units. You'll see the smaller numbers within each of these, all of which are funded within his budget and all been approved by HR. He has asked for 0 personnel supplemental requests the last 5 years. This year, first year, and several that he's not asked for an operating supplemental as well. His revenue is flat, but he does have 1 capital investment program, CIP. And again, this is spread out over the 3 different funds. 200,000 you'll see show up in each one of these for the parking lot and storage addition that he is contemplating. Any questions on any of those?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, to show you pest. It'll look eerily similar with just slightly different numbers. 935,000, again within budget, slightly down on personnel, slightly up on operating costs, down year over year again. Those same 6 adjustments for personnel, as I mentioned earlier, with 0 personnel supplementals, and for this year, 0 capital operating supplementals. Again, with the 200,000 showing up in here as part of the parking lot as well. So overall, looking for $600,000 across these 3 departments for this project, for this year. User fees generally make up his revenue, and that is slightly down from last year to this year. Any questions on pest?
No.
Okay. Mosquito. Same thing here with the overall budget within his allocation, down significantly on capital, slightly up on operating, down on personnel. Year over year, he is down on his budget. He has 8 in this department, the same 6 that I had mentioned before, but an additional 2 special salary adjustments for a field tech and a crew leader, which he has in here as funded within budget, again, reviewed by HR and approved by them. Again, you'll see the 200,000 in here for the parking lot and storage. Revenue, again, user fees, slightly down year over year. Any questions overall for weed, pest, and mosquito? I know Adam wants to get up here and talk. You got to ask him at least one question. You don't have to. We can move on. Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, next, fair interim events. Bob really gets one word, and that is legend. That's all I'm going to say about Bob. For his interim events, overall, $5,029,000 budget and change. He is up year over year. That's predominantly due to his increase in revenue. This year, the massive jump in revenue is predominantly due to the soccer, addition to the soccer field and the expected revenue that's coming in from that. For his personnel request, he has 3 in here for special salary adjustments. and he has a request of 4 new positions. The 4 new positions are for the food and bar, the arborist and horticulturalist. I practiced saying that several times before I got up here. A consultant director and a security supervisor for the fair. All those obviously are within his revenue budget. The special salary adjustments are for the director's position, as well as 2 maintenance techs. You will also see a portion of those within the fair funds as well, as they spread them out over these 2 different ones. Any questions on the personnel? As you can see, the revenue here, again, based off the soccer and additional interim events that he's planning on bringing in this year. Over to the fair. Overall submission of $6,332,000, down year over year. He has, again, those 3 positions that I've already mentioned, those special salary adjustments in those, as well as the 3 of those 4 positions mentioned earlier, cost sharing between the fair as well. No supplementals. And per his brief, he's planning on doing some things out there with his budget, but revenue is up from $5.8 million to $6.3 million year over year. Any questions for Bob in the fair?
Nope, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just agree with your one word for to describe him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the commissioners, and we have some cats and dogs that fall under the commissioner, so I'll run through these real quick. Steve and the commission, it's not lost on me as the clerk of this board how much is on their plate, and I appreciate all the work that you put in for the community. It is noticed by me, and I'm sure many others within the community, so thank you for your sacrifices. I appreciate it. For your overall budget, coming in at $4,526,317. That's predominantly due to supplementals and capital operating, which we'll cover here in a second. 423,000 allocation is over. Budget is up year over year. There are 2 personnel adjustments for increases. Those are special salary adjustments. Those have been approved by HR and are within your budget. For the, you will remain at 10 positions year over year. For the supplementals, you have the professional services for $50,000. I believe that's a one-time funding. And then these others are increases to those particular funds that have already been briefed by Steve, to the Humane Society, Compass Contract, the Terry Riley Health Services, and Valley Regional Transit. The big hit to the overage in this year is the $91,000 for Ada County Emergency Management. And then again, that is a one-time that we were adding into the budget due to the uncertainty of whether or not that FEMA fund will come through this year.
That's definitely uncertain because we don't know that for sure, what's happening with that.
Yep. Any questions on any of those?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just clarification back to my other question. So this is budgeted, but if we don't have to use it, it's in the budget and then rolls over, correct?
It will be budgeted in the budget if it's approved as one time. So if
Right.
we don't use it, it'll roll over into fund balance.
Correct. Thank you.
Yep. All right. I want to know what you are doing this year to bring in $595,000 in revenue, because we need to capitalize on that. But overall, you don't have any revenue that we schedule, so. Any questions on the commissioners? All right, Veterans Memorial, again, is much like court monitoring. Every year, we are $20,000 going to a good cause. Public health, this year, there is a slight increase. I know it's this board's favorite topic. $153,000 increase to public health. Not much more to say about that. It's already been said.
That's one of those unfunded mandates.
That is correct. All right. In the general fund. $5,698,900. Again, the allocation overage here is due to the contingency that we put into this budget every year. It's one time. It's for maternity leave for some of the 2%, a percentage of the 2% that we do not budget within personnel budgets, as well as contingency. And then obviously the 1 million in contingency that we budget every year for the commission, which doesn't have to be 1 million. That can change if the board decided to do something different. But those are the overall hits on this. There are no personnel in this. It's just a capture for our general funding that we normally do. Again, the 1.27 million is the contingency as well as maternity leave that we have budgeted in there. And then the 1 million is for capital operating contingency. Any questions on any of those? Revenue here is overall flat. All right, emergency management. Joe is someone that's cut from the same cloth as me. I love to hear him speak. Wish I could record him and just listen to him. His budget, $738,803. It's slightly down year over year in both his personnel and operating. As you saw in his brief, they operate on a shoestring budget and they do amazing things for the county. There are no personnel requests or adjustments as part of his budget this year. He's remaining at 5 positions. No supplementals for capital operating. And his revenue is formula driven. Obviously, we're accounting for the possible loss of the $291,000 for that particular FEMA grant in the commissioner's budget. Any questions on emergency management? Okay, on to development services. Richard has a magnificent attitude about getting things done and getting them right. Every time I've interacted with him, he's always impressed me, and I appreciate him. In development services, budget is $3,832,000 and change, slightly down on personnel and slightly down on operating. He has 8 personnel adjustments as part of his request this year, all HR approved and within budget. He's not asking for any supplementals. There's 3 special salary adjustments based off certificates that are being earned within those particular PCNs. There's 5 market rate adjustments for inspectors and surveys and directors, again, approved by HR and reviewed by them, and 1 job reclassification for a planning and zoning that was not needed. Again, he is not asking for any supplementals. He does have the Ada County Comprehensive Plan for an EOE per his brief. Any questions on that particular proposal? Okay. And then in his revenue projections, he has been doing very well the last 2 years. He's on target to increase again this year over what was projected, but he has come in at flat here at $2.2 million.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Just a question. Back to the revenue, because I keep asking the revenue questions. So we're only budgeting looks like we may be able to budget higher in terms of revenue. Is that possible? Is that feasible, I guess is a better way to say that?
Clearly, if you look at the trend data over the last 2 years, there's a possibility that you could go slightly higher in this revenue. And I think that analysis has been done by our office, and Richard's looked at that as well.
So would that be within the realm? Would it be reasonable for us to do that without going up, stepping out in the wild blue?
I think in this case it is. I'll defer to Richard if he feels comfortable.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Daly, yeah, in response, we always take a conservative approach. As I mentioned in my budget presentation, there's kind of some uncertainty as far as the development community, the market out there. Again, just a conservative estimate based on what we're experiencing right at this moment. June is usually typically our kind of crazy time, and we're kind of seeing some mildness right now. So, again, as Trent mentioned, this fiscal year we're set to exceed that projected amount. So I would anticipate it's fairly safe. If you had a desire to increase it a little bit, that we could do so. Again, I think we will do a little bit better than projected. So I don't have any concerns, but again, I like to be conservative with staff and with revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, and I appreciate that, and especially since you've been able to create another position, water, within budget, which I appreciate that as well, because there's a real need for us to do that. So thank you for that as well. But I appreciate your comments, and we'll take that under consideration.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Any other questions on development services?
No, go ahead.
All right, on to Sheriff. Matt's someone that I wouldn't want anyone else protecting me other than Adam in an alley. Adam could be on my left side and Matt could be on my right side. I appreciate him and his staff. Overall, $126,835,200 for his budget, slightly up on personnel and slightly up on operating capital. He did come in $3.6 million over his allocation. Those are predominantly personnel requests for unfunded positions, as well as some increases to PCNs. And there are also some unfunded capital supplementals that he is asking for. Overall, just slightly up year over year on his budget. For FY25 mid-year adjustments, he did have some. Again, the sheriff is unique in that you've probably seen a lot more PA requests for him than just 16 over the year, but these are increases to positions that don't fall within the pay plan. And so the majority of his PAs throughout the year fall within the pay plan, and they are budget neutral, and those are because of step promotions and different things for that. So those are not accounted for in here, but those 16 in there are. They're predominantly part-time to full-time for techs and specs, a special salary adjustment for an admin position, some market rate adjustments for reentry specialists and program supervisors and facilitators, and some reclassifications for deputy directors, as well as some LPNs to RNs are the ones that were before the board, reviewed by HR and approved by the board. For new position or for new personnel adjustments for this year, it looks like a large number. That's predominantly because he's asking for the adjustments to patrol positions within the pay plan. Those are all broken out by individual PCN. Outside of those, there are requests for 8 new positions. 1 is funded within his budget, a new chief deputy, and then 7 unfunded, a wellness coordinator, action team deputy, fraud detective, 2 patrol deputies, a forensic Q&A, and a misdemeanor probation officer. There are also, again, as mentioned, those special salary adjustments, pay plan PCNs, as well as some adjustments for the sheriff, some of the captains, and a chief deputy. Market rate adjustments are mostly unfunded, with the exception of a couple that you will see in the slides later on. There are also 13 market rate adjustments for misdemeanor probation. Those are also unfunded. Those have been reviewed by HR and are on the list, and you will see them as red. Overall positions from last year to this year, if the positions being requested are approved, would go from 872 to 880. Those are the personnel requests that are supplemental. Operating supplementals, as you can see on the list, there's a couple of them. items required for the new positions. So obviously, if those new positions are funded, these would be required. If they're not funded, this one would mostly not need to be funded. Body cams, tasers, Avon Fleet, and ALPR systems. There's also jail food contract, health services, water shutoff, the insurance cost increases for the sheriff's office, DNA lab equipment, IT hardware and software increases, Peregrine platform software, which has been talked about, and then the bulletproof windows, a one-time cost for those, your analysis contract increase, as well as items required for misdemeanor probation position that is now unfunded. Overall for $2.2 million in supplemental requests. Any questions on any of those or any additional information that you would like? As part of the supplementals, it was just recently, within the last day or two, that we were able to come up with the split funding on this. He is asking for a 2% pay increase for the patrol pay plan PCNs, in addition to a 2.2 supplemental for an overall 4.2% increase for those particular pay plan PCNs. But in the budget, as we will go through it in the coming hours and days, you will see those split out as a 2% that is funded within his allocation and a 2.2% that is not funded. Just so there's no confusion there. Extra EOEs, you can see here the ACSO portable mobile radios, electronic medical records, jail management system, and taser replacement. I have some great news in this regard. The medical records contract, which was, again, signed last year, came in well under. So we will not be needing that $100,000 this year, as well as the jail management system. We will not need to fund that this upcoming year for $2 million. So as we go through that, I'll make sure that those are marked no in the decision sheets. And then the completion of the taser replacement for $264. For capital investment programs, we have the PSB vehicle shop expansion, the records office expansion, the officer memorial, and the south substation land request. Any additional information you would like on any of those that are on the budget?
This has to do with, I was just thinking what you just said. So the patrol pay plan numbers, you said, well, first of all, because you said the 13 with rate increases had been reviewed by HR. Have the others been reviewed by HR?
So there was some miscommunication early on in the budget process. Initially, those were submitted as a lump sum, so they were not reviewed. We have rectified that. They have now submitted it per line item PCN for those rate adjustments. I know they've submitted them to HR, but I don't know if they've had time or been able to complete those as of yet, because I think they just got them a few days ago.
Okay.
That'd probably be a question for HR, not me.
Okay. All right. Could HR answer that?
Chairman, Commissioners, yes, we have received the data last Tuesday with some more detail to begin doing our analysis. Pay plans are certainly not simple by any means and very critical for the law enforcement industry. So my team has done some looking. It really comes down to, based on the initial review of the data, is a little bit of a philosophical discussion. Probably some more dialogue needs to happen in regards to the desire of what you, board, and sheriff might have in regards to being a match to our market, a lead in our market, or a lag in our market. There isn't a simple answer, and it isn't one that can be it's not, we haven't had the time for something quite so complex to really have that type of analysis completed and to do some more discussions, as well as I think some questions in regards to that all need to look at the funding background on it. And sometimes there's unintended consequences that can happen if we don't ask some of the questions that need to be asked, but we need more time with the data.
Thank you.
Any other questions on any of those positions or CIPs, EOEs, or supplementals for the sheriff? Okay. We will move on to emergency communications. $11,165,243. It is down year over year, all within the allocation here. There were some mid-year changes to, I can't see that number. Oh, one position, sorry. And then there's a personnel request for one change in here, a special salary adjustment for $20,801, which is within budget. Outside of that, there are no personnel supplemental operating costs. There is the barrister data center replacement for $400,000 as an EOE. And CIPs, the radio network for $700,000 and Lucky Peak radio station. That looks like a really cool thing called Trunked Rad, but I'm sure it's more than that, for $1 million. For their revenue, essentially surcharges, and there is a slight increase of $240,000 for that. Any questions on emergency communications? All right. Last but not least, the assessor. The assessor, Rebecca, she has an eagle eye, and as a protector of our assessments, is also dedicated to her people in her office, and I appreciate that about her. For her budget submission, in the assessor's office, $1.6 million and change. They are $151,000 over allocation, predominantly for the consultant for soft resources for CAMA, as well as the new position. I'm sorry, the overage is not because of the consultant for soft resources, it's because of the new position that she is requesting. But the decrease in operating costs of $73,000 is because of the cost of the consultant soft resources coming off her budget. So she's down year over year. Again, she just has one personnel adjustment that she's asking for, and that is a promotion within the budget. It's for an assessor exemption for a clerk. For the new position, it is Assistant Chief Deputy based off growth and succession for a cost of $156,158. That would increase her assessor's office from 14 to 15 people. She's held steady at 14 for the last 3 years. Again, the personnel supplemental is the one position. No other capital operating supplementals, but there is an EOE for the assessor's CAMA property tax system, $937,500 as part of this project. I believe that's for the RFP. It would be a one-time cost, but as part of this project, there will be multiple years associated with this. So as a reminder for the board, signing onto this would sign up for multiple years of one-time fund balance funding this particular program. No other capital improvement programs requests, and revenue is essentially zero. Any questions on the assessor?
Okay, so clarify, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The for that CAMA, if you go back to that, the one-time, so that it's 937.5, and then it's 850,000 in the supplemental, correct?
Yeah, you'll see in the supplemental in the other section for appraisal land records, the 850,000, which would be the next section.
So how do those two fit together again? Because I know we talked about this earlier. But
Yeah, so there's implementation costs. We've gotten into this before. When someone submits something or an office submits something for a CIP EOE, we consider that one-time funding. There are some projects that come in as multi-year, but we still consider them as one-time funding. An example would be the sheriff's jail management system. We spread that cost over 2 years, but it was all one time. We didn't match ongoing revenue with it. With this particular project, there's an implementation cost, which is one time, and that would be the RFP contract to bring someone in to help us implement the new software. But then there's also an ongoing cost associated with it, which is licensing fees, essentially, or subscriptions based off the software that we would select. So we can't have those both in one time because then we would be signing up one-time funding forever for those. So we had them split those out to make sure that we were accounting and matching that subscription licensing fee with ongoing revenue going forward, and then paying for the implementation with one-time money.
So this, the 850,000 would be one, and I know you're going to get to that, would be one-time money?
That would be, right now, we're considering it ongoing.
Ongoing, correct.
But if we were unclear about what was happening in the future and we wanted to do something, that could be an area where for a year, we could possibly cover that with one-time funding. If we didn't know the exact cost of the ongoing cost going on. Just knowing that there is an ongoing cost associated with this that would have to be built in with a matching revenue if we decide to go with this.
If we decided to go on it. So that would give us the option of exploring and then saying yes or no at some point in time after the RFP. So this, if we did it that way, this 937 would come out?
This 937 would stay in because it's separate. This is 937 for the implementation. This would be the funding required to go through the RFP process and award a contract to an implementer. The 850 would be paid to whatever software system that implementer was helping us implement for licensing fees. So they're considered two different things. Same project, but just two different costs.
So if we did the 937,000, then we didn't, and did the licensing fee for 1 year, in essence, we would have something that we wouldn't have be able to operate because we don't have the license if we didn't do it on an ongoing.
I think there's some unknowns on this one. Generally speaking, most of the implementation contracts that I've been on don't require licensing fees until we're up and running. There may be some fees associated with operating environments to do testing in and development and some other things like that, but the individual user licensing, that has always been something that has come later, once the software has been implemented and we get a contract for ongoing licensing at that point. But I don't, every contract could be different, so I'm not a definitive expert on this by no means.
Thank you.
I have a question on this regard. And I read through the Idaho statute, and it sounds like there's a possibility that the state would reimburse us for those costs. But it's not definitive because it's not real clear, but it does say they will pay for it. Now, how would we do that? How would we account for that if they did that?
That would be wonderful if the state were to do that. Obviously, we build it into our budget in the future when they decided that they were going to pay for that. But until they decide that and do something concrete through the tax commissioner, whoever would do this, I think it's on us to budget for it.
Well, I know that, but the but the portion it does appear, if you look at the statute, it does appear as though they're responsible for it. But it's kind of nebulous. I get that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The precedent's been set that Ada County has been paying for this for decades. So to go a different route, I think would be a lift in the legislature to convince them that they should be paying for it. But I'm all for it if we can get them to do it.
Well, it might lead the way if we come up with if we implement this and it comes out to work really well. The state might go, oh wait, man, we ought to look at that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
or if the state were willing to participate with us in the development process, they might be more willing to do their obligation under the law. Or is this going to be, this is another question, is this going to be like the Supreme Court and the computers?
I don't know.
We had the need, we paid for it, and they said, oh, thank you very much.
Could be. Unless Brad or Rebecca wants to respond. They're more knowledgeable on this than I am about the history of assessment software. You want to say anything? Doesn't look like it. Any other questions?
Well, somewhere, and I start trying to find it, there's the $4.4 million. How does that fit into the 957 and the 850,000?
So the $4.5 million would be the overall cost of the project spread over a couple of years. So the first year, this fiscal year in FY26 that we're dealing with would only have the 937 into it. But if this were agreed upon by the board to move forward, then essentially you're signing up the county for one-time money next year and the following year until the project is completed. So that would be the overall cost spread over a couple of years, much like we've done a couple other projects.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. This would not be the first time we've done that.
No.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, on to appraisal of land records. $6,195,422, overage of $975. Again, that's predominantly due to the $850,000 licensing for the ongoing costs of the CAMA software. Overall, the budget is up year over year. There are 5 personnel adjustments that have been submitted as part of this budget. Personnel adjustments are 1 special salary adjustment for a land records tech, 1 reclass for a lands records tech, 1 promotion for a lands records tech going from 1 to 2, 1 underfill for an appraiser 1 to a 2, and then a base pay adjustment for $5,900 on PCN. Those are the supplementals. Those are not supplementals. Those are all within budget. They're not supplemental. She's found them within her budget. Therefore, she's not asking for any personnel supplemental requests as part of appraisal land records. In here, you can see the 3 items in addition to the $850,000 for the CAMA software. Licensing, there's fee appraisals covered by fund balance, vexel obliques covered by fund balance, and then the ERC Canada sketch verification covered by fund balance. Any questions on any of those? Or any additional questions on the CAMA 850,000? Okay, no extraordinary operating expenses, and then capital investment programs. Revenue here, you can barely see, is up $55,000. I don't necessarily, do you have I don't have visibility into the revenue increase for this one. Do you know what it's for?
It's for debt services automation.
Okay.
45 grand, and then street fees.
Dev services automation fee is coming in here for $45,000, so that's the additional revenue. Any questions on this one? All right, on to motor vehicles. Overall, $4.3 million in change within allocation, nothing asking for additional supplementals in this. They are flat year over year. There is 1 personnel request as part of this budget. Again, funded, not a supplemental. It's a promotion for a clerk 1 to a clerk 2 responsibilities. Again, within budget, and HR has reviewed that. No EOEs or CIPs. And revenue is essentially flat year over year for these departmental revenues. You can see the historical trend here for the revenues, getting close a couple of times, falling short in 23, slightly behind this year in FY25, but keeping that flat from year to year. Any questions on that?
Their fees are fixed by the state as well, correct?
Some are set by the board.
So we're on the revenue side, there's some flexibility for us.
I believe there is, yes. Tell me if I'm wrong. Title fees, some admin fees, and some other things that we have some flexibility over. But some of those are set by statute.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
We can set the admin fee, but not the title fee.
Mr. Chair, that concludes my portion of the briefs for individual departments. We are at 4:30. We could continue and keep going down the path of, if you want to start making decisions, or we could break until tomorrow morning. It's up to you.
Well, I propose a break till tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right, what time are we starting tomorrow? 9 a.m. tomorrow then, sir. We will be ready to go with the budget tool that'll help us get through the deliberations.
Okay, we'll be, unless there's any more business that we need, we'll be adjourned till 9 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.